Okay, hello, we are group 8, and my team members are,
Uh, Good afternoon. My name is Juan Solis.
I'm Julian Q.
I'm Camelia.
I'm Edgar Gabrielian.
I'm Miguel Mendoza.
And I'm Victor Vasquez, and our presentation is on Allegiant Stadium.
Okay, an introduction. It is best known as the Las Vegas Raiders Stadium, and they began building it in November of 2017, and it opened in July of 2020. The capacity is about 6,500, 6,500, and it became the largest entertainment venue in Las Vegas. So for planning with the finances, it was nearly $2 billion to build, and the budget was around it was originally set at 1.8 billion, and then they upped it to 2.02 billion, and then they finally settled on 1.97 billion. There was an additional 49.2 million added to be paid to like the third parties, and the land acquisition was about 77.7 million. Construction was 1.4 billion. Design, engineering, and soft costs are 220.6 million, and the utility and infrastructure was 21.5 million. For the construction developers, they had Mortenson McCarthy, and they partnered with the Raiders organization, and they led the team of over 100 firms of engineers, subconsultants, trade contractors, and vendors. And the first one is CAA Icon, and they're an owner's representative and strategic management consulting firm for public and private sports and entertainment facility owners and operators, and professional franchises and leagues. And the next one is Manica Architecture, and they have a specialty in designing sports and entertainment facilities too. The design team first is HNTV, and they're just an American infrastructure design firm. And then Arab, the next, it's also a design firm, and they're like an independent firm. And then we have Smith Seckman Reed Incorporated, and they're a sports engineering expertise for mechanical, electrical, plumbing, and fire protection design services, sustainability, consulting, and commissioning services. And the last one, Kimley Horn, they're a planning and design engineering consultant.
Okay, for the permits, insurance, and building construction. So for a construction project of this magnitude, with like an estimated $1.97 billion invested, and on a lot of 1.8 million square foot lot, the pretty much the state lawmakers of Nevada had to vote in the proposal of building the stadium. Governor Brian Sandoval, who was the governor of Nevada from 2011 to 2019, convened a special legislative session to consider the stadium proposal. The permits obtained were from Clark County and had to comply with the LEED requirements. The LEED stands for Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design, which is like a huge factor in the way that new projects of this size are being built. I did not find any specific permits that need to be obtained for a job this scale, but I can only imagine the extensive list of how many permits are required for this project. There was a 750 million out of the 1.97 billion dollars were public funding from municipal bonds issued by Clark County, and the bonds were backed up by proceeds of a special tax issued on hotels surrounding Las Vegas. So pretty much the tourists were the ones that were going to pay for all this being built. And then all employers in Nevada require employees to carry their workers' compensation at all times. So, I mean, the project this scale, there was very few minimal injuries. So that's always a good thing. Next slide, please. For the site preparation, for the excavation, um, so for the excavation to take place, it required the blasting of caliche rock with dynamite to be able to excavate and create the stadium bowl. The caliche rock is a sedimentary rock, so basically it's like a hardened natural cement with calcium carbonate that cannot be digged. So instead, it needs to be blasted with dynamite. This material can be found like in the high plains of western U.S. and other parts of the world, such as Australia, the Kalahari Desert, South Africa, and Southern American countries like Chile. Um, the dynamite explosions to excavate took place every day for nearly 2 months. So that's 300 holes drilled per day, moving 850,000 cubic yards of dirt. So that pretty much almost close to 18,000 holes to be blown up overall. Uh, Next slide, please. For the site inspection, um, the stadium sits on a 62-acre site on Russell Road and Interstate 15. It's located in a unincorporated town within the Las Vegas metropolitan area. Um, so it pretty much totals to 1.8 million square feet overall on where it sits. As discussed on the prior slides, it was a joint venture with Morrison Construction and McCarthy Construction, which carried out pretty much the whole development from start to completion. And the utility lines pretty much were 30 feet deep from the stadium field elevation and just miles of piping and utility systems. Yeah.
So the Allegiant Stadium is located near the world famous Las Vegas Strip in Paradise, Nevada. So geographically, it sits in a basin within the Mojave Desert and is surrounded by dry mountain ranges. This makes the climate mildly hot and humid. So the Allegiant Stadium was built on the desert. The stadium required for the removal of 895,000 cubic yards of dirt. Next slide, please. So the construction of the Allegiant Stadium began in November 2017 and finished December of the year 2020. It took approximately 3 years to build. The Allegiant Stadium required for the removal of 895,000 cubic yards of dirt, the installation of 12 miles of concrete drilled shafts, and the miles of piping and utility systems. The roof was built with 100 stainless steel cables that created the structural diaphragm of the roof. The cable net system will support the steel structure of the fluorine-based ETFE roofing system. This roofing system will provide an outdoor experience without exposing fans to the intense heat of the Nevada desert sun. And the stadium will come with a retractable field that will contain irrigation and drainage system. And so overall, 19 construction cranes were used throughout the project during the installation of 28,000 tons of structured steel, 105,000 cubic yards of concrete, and 482,000 structured bolts. So just a fun fact, the 28,000 tons of structured steel that were used to build the stadium is heavier than the Statue of Liberty. Next slide, please. So the roles of the contractor. So the builder were, as stated before, were the Morrison Construction and McCarthy Building Company. And the design architect was Manica Architecture. And the architect of record was HNTB. And so overall, the Morrison McCarthy performed all substructure concrete, including foundations, walls, column cores, slab on metal deck, and slab on grade. And the Allegiant Stadium was one of the fastest modern NFL stadiums ever built. Morrison and McCarthy used a team of 200 firms and used digital modeling to be efficient and provide the best performance. And the job was finished in the expected deadline due to technology enabled construction techniques and effective collaborations among project team members. And the Allegiant Stadium was built on a design build approach. This meant that the owner contracts with one entity instead of the designer and builder separately. And this provided collaborative recommendations that fit the schedule and budget. and potential changes are evaluated by the entire team, leading to group focused problem solving. Next slide, please.
All right, so now moving on to the superstructure, which is consisted of 4 elements, and I'll start off with the electric and water line connections. So as mentioned before, 895,000 cubic yards of dirt was excavated. There was miles of piping and utility systems, and 482,000 structural boats used on this stadium. Self-performed all everything was self-performed as far as the structural concrete, including foundation walls, columns, cores, slab on metal deck, and slab on grade. And then there is 1,111 toilets in the whole stadium. And then as pictured on the right, uh, there's just a couple of fun facts that the stadium includes. So 28,000 tons of structural steel, which is heavier than the Statue of Liberty. The 12 miles of concrete drill shaft that support the stadium are 3 times the length of the Las Vegas Strip. The Al Memorial touch stands is 92 feet. There's 44 escalators, 2,200 TVs, 75,000 square feet of video boards, 95,000 square feet of field event space, and 100 yards of turf for the field, obviously. Over 100 over 10 event spaces, um, 19 million pounds uh, of motors, which equals 72 motors in total, and then 105,000 cubic yards of concrete, which is 257 uh, miles of sidewalk from Las Vegas to LA, and then 425 trees planted. So moving on to the second element, which is insulation works, heating, ventilation, and air conditioning. So this is a fully enclosed stadium. It is climate controlled, meaning there's AC and heating. The building automation system controls all of the heating, ventilation, and air conditioning systems, as pictured on the right. The Train Tracer Air Fi wireless control system is implemented, and it includes chillers, HAUs, wireless control, FCUs, and VAVs. Next slide, please. All right, so the third element is going to be floors and paint. So it does include a retractable field. It can either be outside in growing position or inside in what's known as the playing field position. Since the movable field tray had to be waterproofed with hot rubberized asphalt on the bottom for 86,000 square feet. And then you could see the 2 pictures on the right on top. PPG is the official paint used on Allegiant Stadium. And then I couldn't find the actual number used on the whole stadium for paint, but just to like get a better perspective, 20 gallons of paint are needed for just the field. All right, so the fourth element, walls, windows, doors, and the roof. There's 2,200 doors. There's steel cable net roofing system as pictured on the right bottom. And then the translucent ETFE roof panels are implemented on the roof just to get that outdoor experience while being indoor. And there's 21,000 light fixtures. Next slide. So implemented in here are first of all, the biggest element that basically no other stadium has is a retractable field, and then a stadium tour so you guys can get a better picture of what the stadium actually looks like during construction as well. So this is the retractable field. And then this video is going to be like a little mini tour of the stadium while it's still in construction. Can you turn on the volume or no? All right, so since the recording isn't really working, I guess I'll just talk through it. So right now he's just showing like the suites and how they designed it to make it a little bit more spacious while still including. Did you pause it? Oh, while still including a lot of suites because um, the owner actually wanted a various amount of suites um, for fans to get a luxury experience. So here what we could see is the field level, and these are just the designs. Um, so, I mean, you could tell that that's luxurious as well. Um, so where they're standing now is actually the field level suite, which is actually at the same level as the field. So fans can get that experience or actually feel like they're in the game, I guess. And as you can tell right there, since you're at the same level as the players, it might feel like you're just like standing right there next to them. And that's something that the owner specifically asked for as well. Now where they are now is the end zone. So those are also suites. And what they wanted to implement here is basically fans again, just as close as possible as they can be. And on that wall right there, people are actually going to get to stand there. So, I mean, if you're standing there and you go get a drink, someone's going to take your spot right away because it's going to feel like they're on the field and they want that experience. And as you can tell, and like they mentioned in the video as well, um, basically all of the little things like the tile and anything else featured in the stadium is kind of like black and white or black and gray, like the Raiders, because they really wanted to implement the colors as well, just to kind of like make it known that it's the Las Vegas Raiders stadium. So this is a like a drone shot of where Allegiant Stadium stands, and then in the back you can see the strip, and that is pretty much the end of the video.
All right, so for the punch list, we have the stadium features. So we already know there's 19 million pounds of retractable rolling natural turf, 28,000 square feet of operable walls, 127 suites, 8,000 club suites, as my partner was describing. But one of the crazy things when you come think about, it took over 5 million craft hours, for the whole construction process. We're talking about the strip, or the whole amount of concrete that was poured into the whole infrastructure. I believe the fact was that, there's 257 miles of sidewalk, from Las Vegas to LA. And in the construction engineering point of management, you know, if you want to break that thing down even further, it's each truck that dumps concrete has 27 square feet, 27 cubic feet per dump truck. So if you really wanted to, you can break that number down even more, and divide the 105,000 cubic yards of concrete, by 27, and think about how much traffic you're putting out there and where you're going to stage these vehicles and whatnot. So it kind of, for me, when I was really doing the research for this project, it really broke it down to me of how organized you would have to be able to conduct a project of this magnitude, and how focused you have to be in the amount of time that you have to do it. So it must be really really demanding, even for people that don't physical work. Aside from that, other things, the Allegiant Stadium created 6,000 recurring jobs once it was completed. 15% of small local businesses participation, focused minority, female workforce goals. There's 21,000 light fixtures in the whole stadium. There was 425 trees planted, 9.85 miles of wire ropes that suspend the ETFE roof, 22 miles of HVAC piping, 7,400 glass and metal panels on the exterior, 2,200 doors, 3,692 metal stairs, and 47 miles of water and waste piping. Next slide.
Okay, and so for the warranty period, as far as the warranty period and insurance goes, it gets more and more complicated as the project increases in scale. So the first thing to do is to investigate and determine who is at fault, if there is any defect or anything like that. There are different types of insurance that covers all different types of things. There's a general liability insurance, which overall protects against injuries or damages sustained. There's a builder's risk insurance, which covers damages to the building or structure, the costs of construction, and even materials for construction and maintenance. Then there is professional liability insurance that covers errors when providing a service, and also other claims such as negligence, misrepresentation, and inaccurate advice. Lastly, there is a wrap-up insurance, which serves as an all-encompassing coverage for contractors and subcontractors who are working on large-scale projects. This type of coverage can be controlled by the owner or the property, owner of the property or the contractor. Once construction is completed, the warranty period begins. It is just an extra level of insurance for the client that, as it acts as a way to hold engineers, architects, and contractors accountable for the work they do. Each party involved is responsible for a different part of the project. Therefore, they are liable for their respective body of work. Engineers and architects are responsible for the plans and designs of the building, while construction contractors are responsible for the application of those designs and plans. For example, if there is a design flaw in the structure, the engineer is to blame, but if there's a defect due to a misreading, then the contractor is responsible. Depending on the nature of the deficiency, there are various time limitations for legal actions. According to the Nevada statutes of repose, there are term limitations for legal action for defects. There's 10 years for any known deficiencies, 8 years for latent deficiencies, and 6 years for patent deficiencies. In this case, a known deficiency is any defect that could have been known by the engineer, architect, or contractor upon completion of the project through a reasonable inspection. A latent deficiency is any defect that could have been known upon completion of the project, but was discoverable at a later, that could not have been known, but was discoverable later. And the patent deficiency is a defect that could have been known through an inspection on the part of the purchaser. And there are no term limitations for fraudulently concealed defects. And the contract for the warranty period stands between 6 to 10 years. Next slide. And these are our references.